Thiago Saporito versus Daniel Wessler. And this is a big matchup here. Mono White Aggro versus Azorius Control. And you mentioned Daniel, notable world champion in multiple other card games. So not a slouch when it comes to Magic. So you see Copper Code Vanguard.
Yeah, and not the world champion in Magic. That is, of course, Nathan Stoyer, but yes, very accomplished player in card games in general. And Thiago Saporito, his opponent on the other side, former Platinum Pro. I'm not sure why he's here exactly, rather than his home country of Brazil, but while he's here, is dropping by, gracing us with his presence, and starting 4-0 in our tournament for good measure.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe Thiago was at the Pro Tour and stayed around for an extra week or two with some friends. Who knows? But he decided to bring the Mono White Aggro deck here, and someone who we've seen do very well in Magic Online when it comes to the Pioneer format as well. And it's got the Luminarch Aspirant. And, Dom, I'll say it. I think a lot of players have been surprised by how much Mono White we've been seeing this weekend, and also just how good it's been. For a lot of players, it's a deck that kind of fell off when Mono Green left the format before. But this new Copper Code Vanguard has been a huge add to the deck.
Yeah, we have prominent figures on the NRG series like Jesse Robkin, like a few others, who are big advocates for the deck. And even they had kind of moved away from it recently, but it's really picking up again. Big resurgence this weekend, and picking up again online as well.
Yeah, Copper Code's a card that's very divisive. I know Jesse wasn't a huge fan of it. Sort of said, like, maybe this is good in certain spots, but I'm not feeling it right now. And we're sort of seeing a lot of players show up with it and kind of lower the deck's curve and just kind of get on board way quicker. We're going to see Daniel resolve an Omen of the Sea here and scry 2 bottom and then take a draw step. Daniel is playing Yorion. That is that card that is hiding up at the top. That's that new Multiverses of Legends art for Yorion. And Daniel's got 8 cards in hand, just figuring out what exactly he wants to do.
And so far, the answer is nothing. Just going to pass back. And there's going to need some kind of interspeed interaction here to keep up with this draw from Saporito, who I don't think this is going to be lethal this turn, but it's going to be awfully close. So maybe Weiser banking on a Supreme Verdict or something to try and stabilize, but is under the gun right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a big ask here, especially because, this Copper Code Vanguard does a mini Thalia impression for your other creatures, right? So this Luminarch Aspirant is, if you want to kill it, for example, you're going to spend that extra mana. And with a deck like Blue-White, your answers are either, universal and big board wipes, or kind of expensive target removal at instant speed. We're not seeing lay down arms here from Daniel. And it looks like Thiago is getting a Luminarch Aspirant trigger, going to put it on the Luminarch Aspirant, really spread the power around, and then attack. And I think looks like deciding maybe, okay, might have been a moment with the training on the stack that we wanted to remove it to blow up the Omen of the Sea.
Yeah, so some questions in chat as to whether decklists are public. So this is a closed decklist event for the players participating. By the time we get to the top 8, decklists will be public at that point, and then you also will be able to look at those and see what was able to make the elimination rounds. We do see as well, if you look at Daniel Weiser's side, a Ragran Triumph there. So you see some of that in these 80-card Yorion decks, just as these additional blue-white dual lands that can also cycle, have the good types that you need. But Daniel Weiser also has 4 Leyline Binding in the deck. So you're going to see a good mix of Ragran Triumph, as well as Bant Triumph and Esper Triumph, as they are affectionately known.
Yep. And you see a Glacial Fortress and just the passing. Daniel probably has to have a Wandering Emperor, but I'm not even sure if that's enough. There's so much power on board here, Dom. What could Daniel be having?
Well, if it is Wandering Emperor, we can't pay for the ward on the Vanguard, and so as long as something else has enough power, then we are good to go. And that's going to be easy to accomplish.
Yeah, I guess you could have a Samurai get made. Yeah,
Gonna do the quick settle the records check. 0 copies in Daniel Weiser's main deck. He is not a fan of that card, but again, closed deck list at this stage. Thiago doesn't know that, so at least has to be mindful of that threat. Going to send all of his creatures in anyway, and is going to take down this first game. So Mono White Aggro swiftly up a game over Azorius Control here. So we're going to see what both of these players, very accomplished players, both of them, can bring to the table in these sideboarded games.
Yeah, Thiago, like you mentioned before, Platinum Pro, someone we've seen crush Magic at multiple points in their life. And, just going to be able to sniff out, like, yeah, if you got Cell, you got it. I can easily beat everything else but that card. So I'm going to all in attack, not play around too much. And sort of shows, once again, we talked about this, I think, last round, Dom, but the fail rate of creatures is so low. Being able to get in on the board early and just attack people, if you're not like prepared for that, where you're not also getting on the board, you will really fall behind. And that is what the strength of the mono white deck, and we're seeing it really do well this weekend. Let's pull up our sideboard here for our blue white control deck and see what they might have. Daniel has 4 Aether Gust, 2 Chrome Host Seed Shark, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Mystical Dispute, a Dinnick, a Dovin's Veto, a Dream Trawler, a Hullbreaker Horror, and a Yorion as the companion. Dom, if you're Daniel, what do you like it?
Well, I don't like those Ether Gusts, I can tell you that much. I do like the Sea Sharks. I like the Dennick, just a nice life-linking blocker. 2-3, actually pretty good stat line against some of these cheap humans. And then the Dream Trawler as well, good way to stabilize once the game reaches that point. But it seems like Daniel actually does not have a ton in his sideboard for this specific matchup, so may get punished by that here. Probably going to want to shave some of these clunky encounters like the rewinds. Those can get the hell out of there. Interesting to see that card there. And then maybe some of the other counter magic as well. Dovin's Veto, have to imagine, is going to get out of there. Going to lean hard, I think, on the 4 temporary lockdowns that we see in the main deck. So nice card to pair with Yorion, and also just a great way to keep up with these mono white starts.
100%. Let's check out Thiago's sideboard. We have 4 Wedding Announcement, 3 Rest in Peace, 2 Portable Hole, 2 Verdane, 2 Destroy Evil, a Gideon, the ally of Zendikar, and 1 Invasion of Gobrakhan. Dom, what do you like out of this one?
So I like the Redain's good way of taxing cards like Supreme Verdict, and also some of the top end stuff, Wandering Emperor, and so on, that the blue-eyed deck can play. Gideon, just a great sticky threat that survives a sweeper, continues churning out attackers, and then Wedding Announcement on the same basis. Also, the Invasion of Gobakhan as well can take a Supreme Verdict from their hand, give you that perfect info, and then if you can flip it, which it is a trade-off, right? Because you're not attacking them, you're attacking the battle instead. But if you do, then that's another great line of defense there. So a lot of good options in the sideboard. Notably, though, all of those cost 3 or 4 mana. So there is a question of, are you clunking up your deck a little bit too much with all of that? But we don't want these ossifications, don't want these brutal cathars. So 7 in, 7 out, 7 in. That seemed like an easy spot to me.
Yeah, 100%. Those are things that can be happening there, and we're going to see exactly how Thiago wants to, set themselves up for game number 2 here, as the players are shuffling up and getting ready for that match. Looks like they're about to be presenting their decks. But yeah, it is sort of, I mentioned a couple of times, it's impressive to see this white deck sort of get a new card, lower its curve a little bit, and just sort of come back in force. Did you have a lot of respect for the white deck? Sort of where was your head at when it comes to all these cards?
It was one of those decks which I couldn't buy a win with myself, but I would always lose to. And so, I had as much respect as I could given that, but it's definitely a deck which with the regional championships coming up, I know I have mine in a few weeks, you have yours as well. This is going to be a popular deck, I think. But it's accessible, easy to build, somewhat easy to play, although the combat math can get tricky. You get a lot of free wins, and as you said, you put the opponent to the test. You make them keep up with what you're doing, and if they stumble at all, you can just run them over, and the new Vanguard makes that even easier.
Yeah, I think, what we saw before is that mono white was really good versus mono green, and that mono green sort of re-entered the metagame. And I think we're seeing players, sort of like, hey, I know how to beat that. Let's go back to mono white. This deck got some upgrades. It can be more lean now, and now I can, more easily go wide and really pressure those mono green players. And now with a bunch of ossifications in your main deck too, cards like Blue Chronos are not nearly as a problem, as Daniel is going to keep a 7 and Thiago is going to go down to 6. But yeah, it's been really impressive to see this here. And, definitely one of the more consistent decks in the format, despite having fallen off a little bit. I'll tell you what I'm interested in that we haven't really seen. And it feels like every single event, Dom, when there's a big sort of tournament going on, there's like a Pro Tour and RC, Lotus Field comes back out. And there's some big Lotus Field innovations, right? That's sort of like a thing that happens every time. And players have just sort of, not been playing Lotus Field recently, sort of vanished. What's sort of the read on that? Because it feels like the time to come again, to be playing Lotus Field.
So the thing with Lotus Field is you have this core contingent of players, maybe the 4%, 5% of any big Pioneer tournament. They play Lotus Field. it's usually the main deck they play, even the only deck they play. They love Lotus Field. They've mastered that deck. They know all the ins and outs. But beyond that, you don't see people just casually picking up Lotus Field the way you might casually pick up like a Greasefang deck or Humans or whatever. So if Lotus Field ever breaks into the mainstream in that way, you know that something has gone terribly wrong. I think right now it's a good deck. The mono white matchup is a little scary actually, and probably even more so now. But if you can stomach that, then you're good against Rakdos. I think the green matchup is kind of closer than advertised. So yeah, if you are a skilled Lotus player, I think you can cash in on those skills. Not many people actually doing that in our tournament here today, though. Just quick look at the standings. We've got, I see a copy near the top, and then go to the second page here before I can find another one. So looks like if you took that gamble of, do I try and dodge Lotus Field, which is what a lot of decks have to do, right? Then you're probably getting paid off today.
Yeah. Yeah, I just can't help but feel like, last fall, Dom, we had all those, the RCs going on, and I feel like I'm having all the same conversations with everyone that we did then, and we saw Lotus Field do, reasonably well at a bunch of events. Yeah, it's just like, what's happening, Like, is Ignamic Fires good again? What's going on? What's the truth? What's happening? As we do see Thiago on a Moldify and looks...
Not sure how good that deck ever was, despite my love for it, but always good to be reminded of it. Our player of the year from last year, Connor Mullally, asking in the chat, am I saying that he's not a casual? Connor, I am saying that you are a dirty, filthy, disgusting casual, and we love you for it. And that's valid, and that's okay. But coming back to our match here, I'm recruitment officer here for Thiago Saporito, who, my question now, if Thiago just runs this tournament, just the perfect hit and run, is he getting on that flight from Brazil in December to come back for our championship?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? Because
I would assume so, right?
Yeah, I mean, our RC is very different than other regions where in the United States, the top 48 get it. While in Canada, for example, you all have 2 of them, but it's only top 8, right? And so we might see, it'd be like, hey, I think my chances are better doing that or whatever. And I'm going to, do this instead. As we do see a Shark Typhoon cycle for 0. And let's see. And then, yeah, at the end of the year, too, Thiago would definitely come back for end of year NRG Series Championship. No way he won't come back for the 25 grand on the line there. As wedding announcement gets played. Great Moldify here.
Yeah, perfect start, right? Curve 1 into 2. The 2 drop got answered. Now wedding announcement as a follow-up. So even if Daniel has some kind of sweeper as his own follow-up, that wedding announcement going to stick around, keep doing some good work.
Yeah, true. Dom, do you know how many lands you need for your castle to consistently enter untapped? I have no idea. Everyone just says it on Castle Lockdown, but no one ever tells me a number. They're just like, that's not enough. And I'm like, well, what's the number? What do we got to do?
Okay, here's the thing. This is where I would say, let's just dial out Frank Carson, right? Frank Carson, not the only mathematician in the Magic community. In a space with this many computer programmers and scientists and just generally smart people, we can do the math ourselves, okay? We don't have to lean on Frank Carson as a crutch every single time for this. Having said that, I could not tell you the answer myself, so go ask somebody else.
Sure, I'll go find someone else that can help me. My whole thing is, I just think the number is perfect because mine always enter untapped, so clearly the answer is like 7, So there you go. Yeah, we have Doomwake in chat over here. Going to be in the booth pretty soon. Reminding us
that's because you're built different, Mason. You're built taller and also different.
Yeah. Well, I just I make sure to draw my castles when they enter untapped only. Obviously, as we are seeing Invasion Gobrakon hit the board here, and double Emperor, Dream Trawler, Memory Deluge, and Temporary Lockdown, all of the cards. Thiago's going to pick 1 card to exile and make it cost 2 more to cast this game. And got a lot of choices available.
And the siege there that came down for Daniel, that is a very good blocker here, right? There's holding off this legion of 2/1s and 1/1s, and even once the announcement flips, 2/4, very good stat line against these aggro decks. So that's the kind of card which you can board in against a control deck or a combo deck, which won't be able to interact with it, where you want to have that kind of clock, but also against the aggro decks, you just play it 2/4 and force them to deal with it.
100%. And yeah, I was seeing Thiago, just going with the temporary lockdown. Not only is it the only thing that we can play right now, but it would just sort of answer our entire whole board. So, and it looks like we're taking the think here. But if we want to lose some creatures to draw a card, or if we want to get some Tokis, looks like we have a Plains from hand of some card It looks like, oh, we're going to animate the mutable. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think Thiago's deciding, does he actually want to throw away a mutable in exchange for getting this flipped invasion?
We have the rare self-reader here reading his own card just to clarify exactly what that one does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like he is doing it. It's going all here. If you haven't seen this card before, the backside is going to give +1/+1 counters for every creature that attack this turn, and then you can sacrifice the enchantment, and all creatures gain all your creatures gain indestructible and hexproof. So that's going to be really strong against a card like Supreme Verdict, and make it so we can maybe attack through a card like Siege Shark. Nice try trying to pull up Invasion or Gobakon on screen, producer. That won't work for invasions. There we go. We do have the Light Shield Array, though. The backsides will work. Looks like we're tanking on exactly do you want to
here's a good trivia game you can play with your friends. I was going to say, a good trivia game you can play with your friends who may not remain your friends if you keep doing this. Is to ask them to name and then recite the text of the backside of all of these various invasions, which, if you are preparing limited for the Pro Tour, you had to do that work yourself. But otherwise, it's impressive if someone can actually go undefeated there.
Yeah, that is very impressive. I can't do it. As we do see Mutavault here going to the back line. And looks like we drew, okay, Jwari's Disruption on the backside here is Jwari's Ruins. It's going to be a tapped land. Technically a land as we're going to add Yorion under our hand and pass back. And Thiago is in the kind of a decent spot here, given, how many powerful cards are in Daniel's hand. Yeah, he's taking a big thing. He knows the Wandering Emperor is in hand for Daniel, and that is going to, be able to exile anything that he does. And if he attacks with 2 creatures, he won't be able to get the body, which maybe he wants, versus the counter on the extra creature. So it looks like he is going to play a Hopeful Initiate. And yeah. Looks like he didn't want to attack with Mutavault to get a counter on it. Interesting. Maybe is Siege Shark a 3/4? Am I mistaken? Who knows? That's a 2/4. All right. Daniel here thinking has the Emperor if worst comes to worst, which you can, either make a token to block or exile on something and maybe get the Light Shield Array to pop, but no attacker on the Mutavault is sort of weird. Gotta make you think what's going on that we didn't get the free counter there. As we did draw a Hallowed Fountain, we're just going to pass the turn back. Memory Deluge and the Emperor in hand. The board's pretty big now, Dom.
Yeah, we saw this in another one of our feature matches with Mono White. Sometimes you build this big board, it's going wide, but just one big thing on the other side means you don't actually have good attacks. But I think we're reaching the point pretty soon where Thiago does have good attacks. The question then is, well, what if Daniel has a removal spell? Or what if there's 2 mana on this and then flip the incubate token and then block here, and it is easy for what seems like a good attack to suddenly turn into a very bad attack.
Yeah, 100%. Also, this temporary lockdown could come down at any point now. It does cost 2 more still, even though the Light Shield Array is now in the backline. It's no longer Gobakon. But that's going to clean up a lot of the pressure Thiago has. So he's almost forced into making some attacks.
One other thing, though, he does have going for him is the Hopeful Initiate can remove 2 counters from among his creatures, destroy the temporary lockdown in response to that enters the battlefield trigger, and then the creatures don't get eaten up by that. So the Hopeful Initiate might actually be the most valuable piece on the board in the short term.
I agree. Yeah, and it looks like Thiago's attacking with everything. These 2 creatures, Trigger Training. It's got 2 cards in hand. And Daniel's taking a little think. What exactly is going on? How am I going to maneuver through this? It does look like we're just going to move to blocks. And it looks like we're going to eat the human token. Oh, we're going to play the Wandering Emperor and tick up on the Chrome Seed Shark. This looks like what the nonverbal was there. We're going to take the 2.
You're going to get that 4/4 incubate token as well.
Yep. Yeah, and that is really big. You know, those incubate tokens obviously line up a little awkwardly with temporary lockdown at the moment, but those are sort of huge sort of mana sinks you can use. Yeah, and it looks like the shark is going to get bigger and first strike down the human. I'm interested to see what the follow-up is here. Looks like it's Dauntless Bodyguard targeting Hopeful Initiate, and then second Dauntless Bodyguard targeting, yeah, this 1/1 token. And then, yeah, Hopeful Initiate gets a counter like you mentioned. So Thiago can respond to temporary lockdown, gets cast, and blow it up so he can keep his board presence. But the Chrome Host Seed Shark will get to keep the incubates that are made. And yeah, it looks like we're going to minus our Emperor, and we're going to pop the Light Shield Array to give Hexproof Indestructible. Uh-oh, that's land number 6, Dom. Do you think we're going to see Dream Trawler?
Oh, I hope so. I sure hope so.
Card's an all-timer. And it looks like Daniel's taking a think about it. This is one of those things, you know, with the control deck, you just need to sort of turn the corner. Once you're there, you're good. But a lot's going on here. And, you know, missed on land drops for a turn, but has been kind of ripping them off since then and knows he has the gas to take over this game if he plays correctly. He does have Wandering Emperor, you know, incubate the token transform, do another minus, get some blocks going, you know. All right, looks like he's didn't use his Emperor. Just passes the turn.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Thiago's
okay,
like,
well, Thiago, he has seen enough.
Yeah, just, you know, whatever. Sure, the Dream Trawler can be a 4/6 or whatever. Who cares? Doesn't matter. That thing is unbeatable now. And we're going to see a game number 3 from these players here. Exciting game number 2 there with a lot of back and forth going on. It was pretty cool to see sort of just how we stabilized there and sort of how we want to push through with our damage and stuff like that. And it's just kind of dope to see sort of both players thinking about everything going on and trying to outmaneuver the opponent.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about sideboarding again quickly. So from the mono white side, one card we didn't actually flag up was Destroy Evil, which doesn't seem like an obvious card for this matchup, but we saw some number of temporary lockdowns in those games. And also, these Yorion versions of Blue-Eye Control do tend to lean harder on temporary lockdown, not just because of that synergy with Yorion, but also because you need those additional sweepers to keep up early. And then you're going to have maybe some other enchantments as well to flicker with Yorion when it comes down to it. We also know, maybe Thiago does not, Daniel has 4 Leyline Binding in his deck. So between those and also the assortment of creatures that we saw, Chrome Host, Sea Shark, Dream Trawler, you don't know if there's some Baneslayer Angel equivalent lurking in there somewhere. Destroy Evil actually is a pretty flexible way to interact with all of that.
No, that's a very good point. Yeah, Destroy Evil can be sort of this great flex card here and sort of go the distance. And, you know, worst comes to worst, it can, you know, tap a Dream Trawler, which can be very real. You know, the difference between that thing hitting you, them getting another card, gaining 5 life, and you maybe, you know, getting to tap it down and attack for lethal is pretty huge. And then when it comes from Daniel, looking over here at the sideboard, there's 80 cards, a lot of things going on. Or like we said before, probably cards like Rewind are out, but I'm not sure there's anything too spicy to come in. I mean, I think the Dinnick is going to come in, just a 2/3 lifelink, and then you can like block, trade, flip, become a 3/2, block again. But
yeah, I imagine the Dinnick was lurking somewhere when those 80 cards just didn't show up really in game 2. I don't think Daniel has much to change play versus draw. Like a lot of those cards on the sideboard, you just flatly won everyone in this matchup regardless. So I think that decision is kind of made for him. But he will be on the draw for game 3. Needs to break serve and keep up there. So we'll see if Thiago can get it done and move to 5-0 with top 8 inside at that point.
Yeah, very close. It is 8 rounds today, so it looks like maybe a 6-0. Might be able to take a draw and then figure it out from there in the future. But winning this round is important for right now, sort of put you in that position for the top 8. Our players are looking like they're presenting their decks to be cut by the other, and we're going to be ready for game number 3 here. We're going to get a little wheeling dealing. By the way, if you haven't already, make sure to follow the stream. We got a bunch of y'all here in chat. We want to make sure you don't miss any of the NRG action. We're going to be playing out our entire tournament today, including the top 8. And then tomorrow morning, you're going to see myself and Drake Sesser back at it to cover the modern 5K trial. So you don't want to miss that action. You want to click the follow button. It looks like both players are keeping as Thiago plays, plans, and pass. Rafine's tower pass back. Eiganjo into Thalia. Boom.
Turn to Thalia. Yeah, we'd love to have the 1-drop to pair with that. And again, a lot of those in the deck. So the fact that Thiago doesn't, even though post-board curves a little bit higher, suggests we got some nice stuff coming down the pipeline too.
Yeah, we saw him really willing to go to 5 last game and still, kind of made a real game of it. We can easily imagine that happening here as well. And it looks like we're thinking exactly about this. And this is something we noticed in the past a lot too, is our mono white players have so many powerful 3-drops that, these sort of pivotal turns here, they're deciding what they're going to do. It looks like doesn't have the 3rd land, just going to play a Copper Code Vanguard and smack for 3. And now this Thalia is super hard to spot remove.
Yes, it can be awkward sometimes when you have those wedding announcements in your hand and in your deck. And now Thalia is stopping you from casting your own wedding announcement. And no 3rd land drop from Thiago just yet. This is going to be a big one if he can find it, though.
Yeah. And looks like we've got a spell. It might be, Thalia's Lieutenant. That's going to grow up the creatures. Yeah, and Thalia can attack in now. As is the Copper Coat. Yeah, because, it's a 3/3. Doesn't miss a beat.
But now, if this is temporary lockdown, it would be absolutely crushing.
Yeah, I mean, temporary lockdown, we might just see Thiago pick up his cards on the next turn. He does have a Redain in hand.
Well,
and a wedding announcement.
I have to pick them all up to put under the temporary lockdown. But the funny thing is, if lockdown removes the Thalia, well, that would free up Destroy Evil to be cast again if it is in Thiago's hand, even if he doesn't find the 3rd land. So a little bit of a give and take here. But is that another wedding announcement? Uncastable wedding announcement drawn from Thiago?
It might be. This is sometimes the things you'll see. Thiago here playing 22 lands this weekend. You see a lot of mono white players in the past play 23. And it's because of situations like this where, your deck actually post-board becomes very demanding of mana and you really want to double spell, It's not like Burn and other formats where 2 lands can sort of make you go the distance. You kind of need all 3 of your lands in the beginning. But, it chose to have a little bit more power and a little less mana.
Yeah, this mono white deck actually has a lot of really good mana sinks. So among your lands even, you have Eiganjo, Shepherd units in most lists, right? Mutavault, Castle Ardenvale. So it's very hard to draw too many lands and not really have something to do with those. And then among your creatures, well, Recruitment Officer, good mana sink, Hopeful Initiate sometimes. So that's why you see, even with a deck with a curve that's 23 or even 24 lands in some builds.
100%. And it looks like Thiago's moving to combat and just attacking with only the Thalia. Maybe playing around another shark in the form of a Typhoon.
Maybe a second Eiganjo would be interesting here, where that's really not ideal as your 3rd land, but could be a removal spell for a blocker. But you have to imagine in that case, you were just kind of sending everything. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Oh, it looks like we're going to march a little bit of light. Get an incubate for 4. I think it's 4. Oh, you have to pay the 1 for Thalia. Yeah. And so now this Thalia just gets eaten in combat, and that's such a brutal turn for Daniel. Oh my goodness. A second Thalia comes down, which is at least something. But you can sort of start feeling it slip away. You're going to need a land off the top very soon for Thiago. There's a hopeful initiate in the double feature showcase frame. As it does look like, oh, Dauntless Bodyguard is the follow-up.
Okay, so we get to make one big attacker that we can send in, but still highly vulnerable to anything like Wandering Emperor, another removal spell. So Daniel's still in the driver's seat.
100%. And it looks like, yeah, there's like maybe a Make Disappear in hand, and yeah, he's just cashing it in while he can. And this still leaves up the Incubate, which is huge when it comes to attacking and blocking. Yeah, we're now going to see that transform into a 3/3. And this Chrome Host Seed Shark is sort of like a very reasonable card in these decks that are just trying to hold up mana and pass, right? You just sort of play your big spells, make big creatures, and just keep holding up your counter spells and never really have to commit to doing much. So we are seeing the third land. Okay. We are unlocking some plays. Things like Redain are available to us now. Adelaide is the play here. And that is not only going to grow the Thalia Lieutenant this turn, but make it so we can chump attacking with other creatures and actually grow a little bit if we want to later. Memory Deluge.
Memory Deluge.
Yeah, and Memory Deluge.
And okay, here's the thing. There's a Thalia. So we're paying 5 mana for this Memory Deluge, which means we're looking at 5 cards.
Yeah. It's funny. It says, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the mana you spent. So we only get a 4/4 Incubate, but we do get to look at 5 cards. We should get to see.
Oh, and it's Daniel. There. Yeah, Daniel should actually be looking at the 5th card there. So yeah. I guess a judge should note that if possible, but
yeah,
good problem to have. Good problem to have.
Yep. Yeah. If you're ever playing with the card, that's why when you flash it back for 7 mana, you get to look at 7 cards. It's because of the mana you spent. So that, you know, if Daniel continues to make all his land drops here and Thiago still has a Thalia in play, it'll be 8 cards in the future as Teferi, hero of Dominaria, comes down and does what he does best and start taking over the game. As we do have a 5/5 Incubate token, we take up on our Teferi. Wow, NRG Series, we only have 2 Incubates? Come on.
People learn that lesson the hard way sometimes, where they do something that lets you cast a spell for free, like Torrential Gearhulk and Memory Deluge is not the combo that you want it to be, for example. But you learn that lesson once, and then don't need to learn it again.
100%. As Thiago draws for turn here, and you can see at the nonverbal, hand in the head, looking at the battlefield, how am I going to attack through all these creatures? And Daniel, you know, is showing, hey, I have cards like Make Disappear up that I could counter if your thing's actually good, or I can turn one of these Incubate tokens into a creature and actually get through it. So Thiago, not a stranger to getting out of sticky situations, going to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, and the Shark combining really nicely with Teferi, where Teferi's untapping 2 lands at the end of your turn, the exact amount of mana you need to flip over that 5/5 Incubate token and defend the Teferi. And honestly, this game has been a fantastic advertisement for Chrome Host Seed Shark, just as a sideboard card is. So would not be shocked to see that one become one of these go-to pivot creatures in the sideboard for various control decks.
Yeah, you know, like cards like Lyra sort of come down and immediately stabilize, but these Chrome Host Seed Sharks come down earlier in the game and can block and do some incidental stuff. And if you do your game plan, still sort of reach the end state you want. So definitely some considerations to both here, as we are going to see an attack that's going to trigger the token, which is going to grow the Thalia's Lieutenant. So Thalia's Lieutenant is a 5/5, and the Adelaide is a 5/4. And Daniel got some life to play with. Also, you know, has huge Incubate tokens here. Very easily can, you know, animate up one of those and just block down in Adelaide. I'm unsure which one. It looks like he didn't announce he's transforming one, but I'm unsure which one. Okay, it is the 4/4. So
yeah, transforming the fake incubator right there, but now on its flip side.
Yeah, and it looks like we're gonna get a chump block to save some life here, playing around cards like Brave the Elements. And that's gonna trade with the Adelaide. Fun fact: incubate tokens, Dom, first double-sided tokens where both sides are mattering to one another.
Hell yeah! First of many, perhaps, but we would expect to see this come back before too long.
100%. As it does look like, I'm not sure why. Chromo Sea Shark's blocking the 1/1 token behind the Adelaide. That's what it's doing. Okay, that makes sense. It might get Eiganjo'd, but so be it. If you do, it wouldn't even be the end of the world, as you know. That would give you a turn off for Thiago, eat the board up a little bit. You're pretty happy. So we do see a Redain come down a little late, but a card that's going to make cards like Supreme Verdict a little bit harder. Would have been nice to have a little earlier in the game to stop this Teferi 5 from entering the battlefield. Yeah, Teferi just take on up, get another card. As Daniel's sort of getting really close to having this game stabilized, right, Dom?
It looks like it, yeah. I mean, I think we've been in that position for a while, and the attack with the Thales Lieutenant and the Adeline, that was like the last hurrah for the mono white human deck. But Daniel does seem to be in full control now.
Yeah, I would see a temporary lockdown come in, and that really sort of changes things up, as we do see a land for turn, and then another Chrome Host Seed Shark. And we untap our 2 lands with Teferi. Now we have some more interaction. That means more incubates. And this is going to get out of hand very quickly.
And let's not forget, lurking in that graveyard, there is a Memory Deluge ready to be flashbacked, which with Redain, it costs 9 mana, so we're getting 2 9/9 incubate tokens if it comes to that.
Yes, 100%. And we do see Daniel here, Dovin's Veto. It has it in for the high impact cyborg card Thiago has. Worked out pretty well from there and gets 2 more 2/2s now. And we can't even attack through these Chrome Host Seed Sharks. So it's getting really rough here. If Teferi ultimates, that's probably where we'll see the pack up happening. As another Memory Deluge comes down, that's 2 more 4/4s. We're actually just main phasing this because Teferi will untap some lands. I get to spend 2 more. Fun fact, Dom, how many cards do we have to look at now?
6, which Daniel missed this last time. We'll see if he...
Oh!
There we go. You'd love to see it.
Yeah. And, a little maybe oopsie-poopsie on the first time, but we got it this time when it really mattered. And, nothing like getting to spend 6 mana to look at the top 6. Yeah, and we're untapping 2.
I do love as well that Yorion has just been... Yorion's just chilling there on the sidelines watching. Don't need him, don't want him. He's just hanging out, He's vibing.
Yeah, we'll get him when we need to. Right now, we don't need to. As a wedding announcement enters the battlefield, and Daniel's like, yeah, sure. And then Thalia's Lieutenant comes down. It's going to grow at the end of turn when the 1/1's made. And we are going to see Daniel here transform his 2 4/4 incubate tokens. And that's going to allow Daniel to start turning the corner if he wants to, or just hold back on defense more. So you do see Teferi tick up to 8. We are very close to that ultimate. Got a lot of mana. Got an Omen of the Sea. Make 2 2s. Try to draw 1, 2 2/2s. For the Twitch chat, there is a round clock. It's just not on screen for y'all. These rounds are timed.
Yeah, we ran out of incubator tokens long ago. Now we'll just go whatever we have, whatever's in the box. Just give it to him.
100%. As it's getting out of hand, and Thiago is drawn on land, and yeah, it's going to extend it there. Teferi here, Dominaria takes over the game for Daniel Wiseman. Congratulations on that. Moving on to 5-0. And we're going to try and get Daniel in for an interview. And if not, maybe we can catch a couple minutes of one of our backup feature matches. That game did go kind of long, as things sort of do against control deck sometimes. But yeah, Chrome host C-Sharp from Daniel there. Very impressive, like you're mentioning, Dom.
Yeah, you see a lot of these creatures like the Baneslayer Angels and the Hullbreaker Horrors of the world and so on. Often there's a limit to how many of those you can have and how flexible those can be. But with a card like this that is so cheap, so flexible, so low commitment, you can board that in against basically everyone. And if they don't remove it on site, well, that's going to take over the game pretty easily, given enough time. So I think that's a great innovation there. Definitely keen to hear what Daniel has to say about his choice of this deck and also his build of this deck as well, as you mentioned. World champion in 2 other card games, Minnesota local, so well known to the Minnesota Magic scene. So really putting on a good show on his home turf.
Yeah, we had this happen a lot where there's just some local killers that, they don't travel all over the United States with us for the NRG series. But when we come to their towns, they come out and play, and they often show up in force. That's one of the cool things about this series is you get to play people from, all over, right? Thiago's from Brazil, and we had him out here playing today at 4-1. And so it'd be pretty interesting to get that there. Looks like we are probably going to get our interview here. I'm unsure on this round status. I don't know if we're going to get to our backup. Probably depends on how our interview goes. But we're going to see that as it comes. But yeah, this blue-white control deck has been, pretty good so far. It sort of dominated the Magic Online challengers, right? 3-4 weeks ago, had a bunch of really good showings there. And in paper here, seems to be doing quite well.
Yeah, it's this weird enigma in Pioneer, I think, where it doesn't get talked about that much. But then you look at the online results, and it feels like it's always doing pretty well for itself. And it is like we saw with George Dubois round 1, right? There are people who they play control whenever they can in any format, and so yeah, they'll always play blue-white control the way that the Lotus people will always play Lotus Field. But I think if you're looking for a good choice for your RCs, then I think blue-white control is definitely worth a look.
100%, yeah. Still waiting on Daniel here for a second, but yeah, with the RCs coming up, like the United States and the Canadian ones are just a week and a half from, I guess, 2 weeks from now. Sorry, I misspoke. And so if you're one of those players, get excited for that and try and figure out exactly what you're going to be doing here. I imagine, Dom, this weekend of results between not only our events, but also the Magic Online events going on, like the challenges, are really going to impact a lot of players when it comes to the metagame, right? If you're thinking about what you want to play for the RC and you want to practice, get the cards in time, this is sort of the last weekend where you can order a whole new deck, get all the cards in time, and still have everything ready to go.
Yeah, I don't think there's any deck in this tournament which is taking people totally by surprise. But let's say one of these Rona decks wins the whole thing, right? Well, that's kind of a curveball. At that point, you're thinking, well, should I be testing this? Do I have enough time? Is it worth maybe taking the risk? Or with this little time left to go, do I just kind of stick with what I know, go with a safer choice, one that I'm more comfortable with? And that's a choice that hundreds of people are going to be having to make across the world for their tournaments.
100%. Yeah, and we actually saw this at the last one of our events before Atlanta, right, Dom? Angels came in and won, and some of the players were like, whoa, hang on, is this Angels deck actually good? And it's sort of become a part of the format, right? Angels has sort of, integrated its way in, and we might see something like that this weekend here. It looks like Daniel is ready to come on in. And so, Daniel, can you hear us?
I can.
Congratulations on the win. Yeah.
Yeah,
how's you feeling so far?
A very impressive performance there, and also 5-0 in this tournament so far. So got to be feeling pretty good, I would imagine.
Can't complain, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that matchup's horrible, but my opponent got very unlucky and didn't play, so that's how it goes.
What went into your choice of, I guess, blue-eye control as an archetype, and then the Yorion version in particular, and this build that you brought to the table today?
So I decided to play blue-white because I kind of like blue-white, and I picked my deck by copying the exact deck that Greg Orange played at the Pioneer Pro Tour.
Okay.
And that was the extent of my choices. That was it.
So
I added the 2 sharks on the board. That's a new card. That wasn't
a Greg Orange control deck. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned.
Yes, I was going to ask. That is the one new card that we drew attention to. Yeah. Yeah. Get into those a little bit.
Yeah, I mean the card just seems pretty good. It's nice because it gives you some like juke creature threats out of the sideboard, so it just comes in and like basically every matchup, I assume, because people want to board up the removal. And then it's obviously just like pretty nice with the deck. You have a lot of expensive spells that do with the Leyline Bindings. And the friend that I'm borrowing the deck from was missing the 2 Narset's reversals that Greg played at the Pro Tour, so it was a very easy switch. He had the Sharks, didn't have the Narset's reversals, so.
Nice. And the Sharks
Sure.
have been doing well for you so far all day today. You've been bringing them in, and the pivot's been kind of catching them off guard.
That was like the first time that it's actually been really good. The rest of the time it's been like solidly medium, but not bad.
Sure. Hey, solidly medium gets you pretty far when you're playing blue-white control. Well, are you having fun this weekend, by the way? You're 5-0. You can't be having that bad of a time.
Yeah, I mean, I just playing this tournament for fun, basically.
Nice. Well, thank you so
Are there
much.
any? I was going to say now that you've played 5 rounds with a Greg Orange special, are there any card choices which you thought were a bit strange would make more sense in retrospect, or the other way, cards where you're like, Greg, what the hell is going on here?
I'm 5-0, no changes.
Perfect. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for taking your time to come and talk to us. Go enjoy your rest round before the next round goes up. You got a couple of minutes left. You're a control player. Enjoy that time. We're going to head on. Nice. Thank you so much, Daniel, for taking the time to talk to us. But yes, that's going to do it for Dom and I here in the booth today. It's been great to have us here. Thank you so much, NRG, for having us. And thank you, Twitch chat, for hanging out with us for this last couple hours. We're going to have Joe and Doomwake sort of take over for us for the rest of the way and take it on home to the finals. So don't leave. Don't miss anything. And we'll be back. And then tomorrow, we also have the Modern 5K trial. We will meet me again in the morning, a 10 a.m. start time Central. So we'll see you all there. And stick around. We're going to have more matches of Magic for you the rest of today.